So the first thing I do is I actually synchronize and calibrate for your body what your energy looks like. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run a reactivity test. And what that shows is what your body is reacting to, what stressors there may be. So you can see I run a test potential. And what this does is this actually scans your body for 6,900 different things, all the way from allergens, pathogens, viruses, funguses, um, parasites, deficiencies in amino acids, minerals, vitamins, all kinds of different things. And so, what we really want to look at is exactly what the root cause of your issue is. And the other thing about this is because we can look at it at different angles. So, let's say you have a neurological issue. We look at it from the brain. We look at it to see if the root cause is digestion. We look at to see if it's emotional, to see exactly what's going on, to see if you have a vitamin deficiency, a mineral deficiency, if one of your organs isn't producing correctly. So we were able to look at that illness or disease from many different levels and many different areas. Because your body is a system, it's not just one piece or one part, it's the entire body is dysfunctional. And we need to see what the root cause of it is. And there may be several root causes, but we want to fix them and have your body react to those appropriately and get to the root cause of everything. And you're going to see a lot of diagnoses in there, and those we're not too worried about because we want to look at the overall system. So as you can see, it is not just one thing that's going on, but one of the things we really look at is this is what it's telling us. The priority right now is really spinal. So this person has probably been experiencing spinal issues, back pain, and so we really want to look at that. But what I do is I actually go through each individual and just kind of see what's going on. So this person has some serious issues to sugar. Um, and so that's one of the things I want to look at is possibly candida, which is a fungal overgrowth in the pancreas. This is Ayurveda, which is it was based on the science of yoga and Pilates, um, about really seeing what's going on with your whole aura, with your whole system. And what this one is saying is that there may be some issues with the spleen. Um, and this person has actually suffered with spleen issues, with some bleeding issues and some clotting issues. So it's very indicative of what's going on with them. So as you can see, the issues don't always just come from one area, whether it be an organ or whether it be a muscle, or whether it be a spine or a nerve thing. It comes from it at several different angles. And so in this case, it actually is looking at your entire energy field through your Ayurveda viewpoint, which is completely different than what we're used to in our Western medicine. This is much more Chinese based and looks at the person as a whole and not just as pieces. And what I'm able to do is I actually want to, what you notice up here is this percentage of rectified. That means within this system, within your body system, it is actually lacking a certain brain wave to help heal those specific issues. And so I actually provide back, because this machine is actually on a biofeedback loop, which means it not only reads the brain waves coming from the person, but the person is actually getting those specific waves that the body needs back. I look to see how closely your body rectifies. And what that means is when I see that, let's say in that previous situation, there was issues with the spleen, there is a certain frequency or brainwave that is necessary to help the body heal itself and heal that specific issue. Well, when I send that specific signal or brainwave to the body, the rectification shows how well the body received that and then translated that to the problem. And when it comes up very high, it means the body recognizes what it needs to do and starts to take care of it itself. However, when it comes back slow, that's when you realize that there's an issue, that the body does not know how to heal itself and that it needs additional help. And so in this case, when I did it, it actually came up to 90 on the very first try. which is absolutely wonderful. And that means the body recognizes what it needs to do to heal the problem at hand and is taking care of it. And so no additional intervention on my part is necessary. So with this one, although it shows a very specific diagnosis per se, this is not a diagnostic tool. It does, however, tell me what's going on at an energy level. And so what it shows is a condition saying what's going on in your body is very similar to the conditions that would go on with this specific illness. It is not saying you have that illness, but it's giving me ideas about what specific things that are going on with this person's body. And so I do know that this person has multiple sclerosis. And so there is some issues going on at the cranial level or at a brain level. And so what I want to do is I actually want to see how the body is responding and see if this person knows what to do and actually help the body give it what it needs to rectify the situation. And so after 2 times, it went up to 98%, which is wonderful. So the body is able to recognize that there's a problem and that it can't heal it itself. And once I send the frequency or the brainwave that it needs to trigger whatever that specific issue needs, the body actually identified that and took care of it pretty quickly. So that's pretty wonderful. Okay, so this person is, and actually things are extremely true. And the reason why I can say that is these are my readings. So I do suffer with circulation issues. My circulation is not good. I do have chronic anemia. Esophageal cancer doesn't mean I have cancer. What it means is I have issues within my esophagus that actually are very similar to esophageal cancer. So that is actually true. I actually have some choking when I eat. And so I want to see if I can rectify that situation. And if anyone who knows me, I actually have lots of digestive and bowel issues. In fact, I have no large intestine, had it removed because of a very significant problem. And so it's very funny that that comes up. It's not funny. Actually, I knew that I have this problem, but this just again shows how much the system does pick up and how close it is to exactly what's going on in my system. Now, even though it says esophageal cancer, I know a lot of people would be extremely stressed out about seeing that, but that is not what it means. The other great part of this system is it's more preventative. And so I like to explain when I come across a certain issue like this, and in my case, I do realize that these are very indicative of things that have gone on in my body or are going on currently. But if it happens to come across an issue that it says is pretty significant and is causing stress on the body, and I happen to tell my client that, and the immediate reaction is, I don't have a problem with that. I've been tested and I don't have any problems with that. The great part of this system is it's showing stress on your body. And it doesn't mean that it's something that's actually creating symptoms. Obviously, you had an issue for a long period of time before you started having symptoms, much like having a small spot of rust under the underside of your car. You don't realize you have rust until the doors start to rust or until you see a huge spot. This is actually showing you what's happening with your body that's a stressor, and it may be something that we can take care of in prevention, and it may be at the early stages, but it wants to let you know that this is something that's going on, that there is something in your body that's not getting what it should be, and that's giving out a signal showing that there is a problem. The part that is very interesting to me is because I do have anemia. I do have a lot of these issues, so it's not just about the symptoms. I really do have a lot of these specific illnesses or diseases. And again, I also have multiple sclerosis. So that usually does show up, which is very sad, but it's very interesting that it just adds validity to this system. And right now I am doing it virtually or remote. So you can see that I don't have to be hooked up to the harnesses for it to read my signals through the system that I'm using. And so if you've ever had any questions about how this can work remotely and not with the harnesses in place and how we can do this, you can see that these are my results. And These aren't something that I'm making up. These are things as I'm running them remotely on myself. These are things that are showing up, and these are things that are very true within my body. This is showing that my thalamus has an issue, which again is in the brain, and it works a lot with information, how you do it. It's very interesting, and I want to help regulate that because that's a gland that's extremely important. Again, there is so much going on within my brain with having a neurological issue, having multiple sclerosis. A lot of things within the brain are not working properly, the nerves are not conducting properly, and so we want to make sure that everything is working wonderfully, or at least have them working to the best of their ability. And so what you're going to notice is the red up here. What we're looking for is anything over 80, means that you either have too much of or not enough of something. So in this case, the thalamus, what that means is maybe overactive or underactive, and that's creating a stress, a huge stress on your body. So just because it's red and it's up in the hundreds doesn't necessarily mean you have an overabundance of anything. What it means is that it is a serious stressor. And so just like food, if you have too much, you become obese. If you don't have enough, you starve to death. Those are both different angles, at different ends of the spectrum of a problem. And so what also we want to look at is here, anything below 10 means it's a chronic issue and that it's something that I have been suffering with for quite some time. And what we want to know is when I click on this, we can also click on and see what that is. And so the pineal gland is actually pretty big deal. And lots of people have problems with it. It's another thing that's within the cone, or I'm sorry, within the brain. It's shaped like a P. And again, you can read right here all the things that it does. It helps with the pituitary gland, and it's actually called the third eye. So it helps with intuition. It helps with a lot of different things. It also helps with thyroid regulation. So people who have problems with thyroid, notice that they have problems with their pineal gland as well. So this is something that's been going on that has not been working properly for quite some time because it is under 10. It means it is a chronic illness or chronic stressor on the body. And so we really want to work on that as well. Homeopathic means is your body working well? And so again, very funny that these are coming up because one of the things with multiple sclerosis is stiffness and soreness, much like arthritis. And again, the spleen comes up again. So that's something that I'm looking for, is something that comes across reoccurring in several different areas of the body. This one came up spleen came up in the Ayurveda, showing that there was something that was going on that wasn't working holistically. It was not homeopathic, it was not balanced. And the spleen came up there, and then again the spleen came up here, just showing that the spleen is throwing things off a little bit, and we really want to figure out what that looks like. And I have to tell you, this is very, very interesting to me. Again, I run mine all the time, but it's still very enlightening to me because again, because I have multiple sclerosis, especially in the morning, I have problems of symptoms of incoordination and paralysis and loss of balance and chronic fatigue. And so to show that these are coming up is kind of a big deal. Not that I ever question that this isn't real, because I see so many cases and have seen so many things that cannot be explained just by normal therapies. This really is a big deal. But again, it gives credibility to the machine as well as shows exactly what's going on. The IgG is a problem with the gut, and that usually means that there are some food sensitivities and allergies. And I definitely know that I have that as well because I only have part of my large intestine. I do have problems with my liver as well, and I only have 10% of my stomach. And so I do know that I have lots of problems with food sensitivity. Malabsorption is a big thing for me, and that I'm not getting enough food. And so that's very concerning. But again, it shows it up. And on the very first try, it went to 99%, which means my body does recognize that that's a problem and that it is trying to solve it itself. However, given what it is, it cannot solve it itself. Now the meridians, what you see here is I'm actually able to do needleless acupuncture. And how that works is I'm able to see the meridians within the body on the nerves and actually apply a certain frequency or current to that and provide some pain relief, as well as to connect that meridian. So anybody that's ever had dry needling or acupuncture, that's what they're working on. They're working on the meridians. And I will show you this because you can see that I have a few meridians that are hypersensitive, which means I have lots of nerve pain. And I have some pain issues that need to be worked on. And I do know that I do suffer from pain. I have spinal stenosis. I have degenerative disc. I have multiple sclerosis. I have Raynaud's, fibromyalgia. So I have a lot of pain. And so I realize that the meridians may be the nerves may be very hyperactive. And I'm having lots and lots of pain issues. I am actually having sleep problems right now, too. I'm just amazed at all the stuff that's coming up that are actually going on in my life. And this is taking quite a bit of time to get it up to the 85% rectified that I'm trying for. And the reason I try to get it up to 85% is because the brain can take it from there. Once I get it up to 85%, the brain knows what to do. If I haven't had to continually keep doing it over and over again, can get it to the rectification and then can continue to keep applying those brain waves in order to get the body to function or to stimulate hormone release or slow the central nervous system down, whatever is necessary for that specific issue or stressor, the body's able to take care of that if we can get it to 85%. However, if I have to continually keep stimulating that issue and take 7 or 8 times to get it up to the 85%, that is indicative that the brain does not know what to do and that issue may continue for a while until we retrain the brain. And that's exactly what this system is doing. It's actually retraining the brain. Wow, this thing is just spot on today. So it's saying that I'm having some issues. This is the other part that is unusual with the system. So if you do an EEG, what it's doing is how, when you go to the hospital, how your brain reacts to certain stimulus. So they do loud noises or they touch you to see how your brain waves react. This can actually show you how you are doing emotionally as well, some of the things that you're having problems with. And so what I like to use the example of is as a tree is growing, let's say some children come along and they're hitting it with a baseball bat. That actually dents the rings of its growth. And so if a tree gets cut down, they're able to see on the rings when there was trauma to that tree. That's very similar to this. Anything in your body that's causing a stressor, whether it be a physical stressor, whether it be something related to trauma, something related to when you were growing up, or an emotional trauma, that those are able to be seen because that actually changes the way your body functions, and it changes the way if it functions improperly, it can actually tell by, I say, and I'm doing air quotes, the rings about when that could have happened. And so I'm going to show you that as well about what that looks like on the emotional side, so we can actually look at what that looks like, so you can see exactly what issues that there may be emotionally that are going on. And those are things that we also do. We actually look at those specific things when we're looking at a treatment plan. Is there something that needs to be addressed, whether it be a digestion issue, whether it be supplementation, whether it be sleep, whether it be emotional, spiritual. We look at the entire realm of what that looks like, and we provide a whole treatment plan and give you multiple avenues to get those things taken care of. And so as you can see, this identity conflict, not sure what that is. And so I'm probably going to think about that, but it took a lot of time to get that up to the 94%. And so that means that this is an ongoing problem, and my body, my brain doesn't know how to react to that. So what people understand is behavior comes from brainwave activity, or how your brain reacts to a stimulus. But you can also change the behavior and change the way the brain reacts. But by changing the brain, you can also change the behavior. So what you see is I have a lot of stress going on. And with the coronavirus and with homeschooling, there is a lot of stress going on in a lot of people's lives. So this has been an underlying issue for a lot of people. And I just need to retrain my brain to handle stress a little differently, or to handle it more appropriately. Not saying that stress is going to go away, not to say that I'm never going to get angry or that I'm never going to feel stressed out, but it gives me a chance to retrain my brain on how to handle things. Just like learning how to catch a ball or ride a bike, you have to train your brain how to do things the right way in order to come up with the answer that you want. So now what I want to do is I want to go into each individual and look. So the first thing I want to do is I want to look at the brain. And I want to see how the brain waves are reacting to each other. So we have two sides of our brain, and we want them both to work in harmony so that we can train them both to attack an issue as a partnership, and then work to do that quickly. And so when both sides are working together, obviously you get the effectiveness happens much better, and it also happens much faster. If each side is working against each other, because you have so many stressors going on, you have so much pulling you in several different directions. If the brain isn't working together, it takes much longer to solve the problem and to retrain the brain, and it is not necessarily sustainable. All right, and the other thing I do is I always test ADD and ADHD, and it doesn't necessarily mean that person has an emotional or a mood disorder. What it means is throughout the day we have a lot of things that pulls us in different directions, and so ADD and ADHD means how easy are we able to focus on something, concentrate, and really put a lot of effort into one thing, or are we pulled in many different directions and find that we're not getting anything completed? And that will add stress to our lives because you feel like you're not getting anything done, and that puts a lot of stress on our psyche. So as you can see, after one time, I'm only at 45, it has not rectified itself. So I want to give it one more time. I want to give it the signal that it needs in order to get my brain to work properly, to get everything working in the same direction and for the same ultimate goal and same task. If the brain is working properly, once those underlying issues are resolved, the brain is then able to handle things and deal with them appropriately. Okay, so what this looks like is what your brain waves are. And what people go through is when you first wake up in the morning, you should be in a beta state, very alert, and that's what gets you through the day. And then as the day goes on, what they call is a circadian rhythm, you go through each of the steps. So you start out with beta in the morning, wide awake. You go in throughout the day, then you go into alpha state. Alpha is extremely good for meditation. It allows your body just kind of relax. You're not in that hyper alert state. Theta is one that children are normally in, and that's a really good one for learning. Their brains are open and to learn, and this is a really great brainwave to be in for small children. And then you want the delta for the sleep. And so people who are having sleep issues, again, when we look at a plan, if sleep is an issue, then we give them certain things that they can do at night, not medications, but very things that are very simple, very small changes that they can do and that they can do without having to seek treatment or pay someone else to do. These are very simple. And so what I often do is suggest binary beats and put them in the delta state and then have them play them throughout the night. And that way it keeps them in a very deep relaxation, gets them there, helps to turn the brain off, and then keeps them in a nice sleep until they're ready to get up. So regardless of what you come in for, these are the things that I do first. It's very important for your brain to be working properly to begin with before we start applying any of these techniques or therapies on the brain. So that's the first thing I always do is to make sure I have your brain harmonized. So that way it's prepared to take the rewiring and it's functioning at its best at that point. And the next thing I know is I look at your chromosomes and then I always give them what I like to call a washing. I don't want to sound like I'm surprised because, like I said, I've seen some pretty amazing things that you cannot explain. But this thing is really spot on with me tonight, and I'm doing it completely remotely. So the stomach went to 43 on the first time. Ooh, sterility went to 0. And that is because I have it is not a medical issue. I do not have a concern because I have everything removed. So sterility isn't because of a medical issue that has some sort of underlying issue that we need to solve. I do not have any of those issues because I do not have the mummy parts anymore. So what I do want to work on is I want to work on the stomach. But as you can see, the wound healing is at 5%. That means my body does not know how to heal. One of the things that's so important that people understand is the minute we get a tickle in our throat or we start to feel a sneeze coming on, we go to the doctor and we get an antibiotic. And what that does is that actually forces the brain to forget how to heal itself and how to build up antibodies. It's because we've taken that power away from it to heal itself. We start doing all of these things externally to heal them. And so the brain forgets. And so it's really important for us to realize that we need to give that power back to the brain. But without doing anything, it's much like riding a bike. You just don't hop on a bike and drive away. We need to retrain the brain how to take care of these issues the minute they come about. Also, when you start doing that and you start providing all the antibiotics and everything to your body and your body forgets, it also forgets what's important. And so it can't identify the difference between you stubbing your toe and you having a stroke about which one's important because it doesn't know how to prioritize because it's never had to. We also, one of the things we do with brain training is teach your body what's a priority, by giving it the signals that it needs, and kind of picking and choosing too, if we feel like there's an issue that's going on, to pick that, because again, your body doesn't necessarily know what it should be working on first, because it hasn't had to. We've taken that power away from it. So let's say you come in and you are having some serious problems with wound healing, and that doesn't show up on the machine. One of the things we can do is we can actually work on wound healing specifically, because it's really important that we're giving your body exactly what it needs, but it doesn't always know what the priority is. Now, again, what I said about chromosome washing, what this does is this goes through each individual chromosome and gives it a very light washing. So anything that's going on with it, it's giving it a signal to kind of knock the dust off. This is not going to make every chromosome back to normal as if when you were born. What this is doing is this is just giving it a light cleaning. And what that means is if there is a problem that's starting, it is actually stopping that for the time being, and gives us a chance to change the trajectory of that maybe illness or symptom. But if everything continues exactly the same, we eat the same, we have the same sleep, we have the same stress, obviously this is not going to do anything, because it just gave it a stop, and now you've gave it a go because we haven't changed anything. And so this washing will help if it is something that is something small that it can actually erase that. But if it's something big, it can actually put a stop to it, that we have a chance to change the way that that imperfection or flaw is continuing. Because this machine is so sensitive and can tell me emotionally if there's something going on, spiritually if there's something going on, obviously, or physically what's going on. A lot of people come into my office and do a session, and I ask them if there's anything they want to work on, if there's anything that's going on with them. And a lot of times they'll fold their hands and say, "Well, you tell me." And that's a great thing to do, just to kind of check the validity of the machine and to see what's going on. And it has been absolutely helpful to put people's mind at ease, to let them know that this is something that's going to help them, and that it does identify issues or stressors that's going on with them, and that we really do want to retrain the brain in order to work with that. However, that is not helpful for people who have some serious issues going on and that need those worked on, and that you've just taken the very first session to kind of feel me out and feel out the machinery, and we haven't worked on your specific issues. So again, your brain doesn't necessarily know what's a priority right now, because it's not used to handling them. And so when you come in, if I see on the machine that it says you have a problem with a toothache, and your underlying issue may be that you're having some significant heart problems, obviously, if the machine comes up and you haven't given me any indication about what I should be doing, I will work on the issue that comes up. And so I understand people's curiosity about how this works and really testing me and testing the machinery, but it is extremely important that if you have an issue that you want to work on, that you let me know. Because right now, with us training your brain, it doesn't always know exactly what it should be doing first. And I really want to give you the win. And I really want to retrain your brain to work on the significant issues that you need worked on. I understand the testing me part, but this is about getting you better. And so I would hate for you to waste your very first session with me just trying to see if you can stump me, or to see if I can, if I'm a mind reader and I can see exactly what's going on. So just keep that in mind. I know that this is something new. This is something that's very hard for people to wrap their heads around. But as you can see, these are issues that I definitely suffer with. And I'm not doing anything. I'm not touching anything. This is completely remote. And it is actually telling me what's going on.